Thank the four. Star Wars Newsnet Live is here. My name is Tyler, ready to bring you all of the fun things that have happened in the last week of Star Wars, plus a little extra. I apologize for my voice. I'll get more in that in a moment. My voice may or may not give out before our hour together is over, but that is okay because I am joined by someone who can take up the mantle, take the reins if need be. My good friend at Star Wars Newsnet and in life, Mr. Tom. How are we today, Mr. Tom?
We're doing good. We're doing good. A little busy day today. A little bit tired, but I'm happy to be here, talk Star Wars with you and with all of our friends on the web.
I am excited to be here, but first, my voice is very low. It may sound like I'm low energy, but I am high energy as always. But it's in the middle of basketball season right now, so we had 2 games this week, and so when I'm coaching, the voice is gone. Like, it is just holding on for dear life. And then I coach PE at my school too, in addition to my English class. And so my voice is just trying to survive on a week in, week out basis. And it's not necessarily holding up all the time. We'll see how long it can go tonight. But hey, we're 2-0 this week. Got the
Right.
job done. Played, some bums yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. It's talking about middle school people as bums. But I will say this, Tom, I'm not someone that is going to unnecessarily call people out. But I will. I'm no names or anything, obviously, but like, let's just say when you are coaching young individuals and you are encouraging behaviors that are not appropriate or cross certain lines, like, and you are encouraging that, you are not doing the kids that you are coaching any favors in the game of life. And you are not doing them any favors as a human being. And so I just want to say that, like, I highly discourage that, and it makes me angry when I see that happen on opposing places. So we'll see, what happens as the season progresses. But we're 2-0. We're fighting hard,
Oh,
and I'm ready for. We got a big measuring stick game on Monday to see where we're at. But proud of the squad so far, Tom.
congrats.
The great Michael Jordan said, when he was giving the North Carolina Tar Heels a pep talk a few years ago, the ceiling is the roof with this team.
Well said. Well said. Words of wisdom.
Well, we had what seemed like a light week of Star Wars news, but we have some exciting topics that we're still going to bring to the table. Of course, Daisy Ridley spoke out a little bit on the future of her Rey movie, but there was a big IGN. We had the IGN article that we covered with Star Wars Newsnet, and all about Star Wars Starfighter and Star Wars Starfighter. They are very adamant. The people involved in this movie are very adamant. There will be no legacy characters in Starfighter. That this is truly a standalone project. But you can't help but wonder if Rey should be in Starfighter. That's why Nate, who put this together for us, has Rey. She's on the little boat over there. She's just, maybe she's gonna float on into the movie. Maybe she's gonna row her way out of the frame. And we're gonna talk about that today. We're gonna talk a little bit about Taika Waititi's comments. We're gonna talk a little bit about Daisy Ridley's comments. We're gonna talk a little bit about Andor tonight, because why not, of course. And so, a lot to talk about here in the Star Wars realm. But Tom, quick question for you. We
Sure.
were talking about this before the show started, and I'm curious. Kathleen Kennedy said her biggest regret was Solo, and not necessarily making Solo, but maybe the timing of making Solo. And people weren't ready for that yet with that particular character. I just want to know what your general thoughts on Solo are, because I don't think that we've ever really talked about it on here a lot. So I thought it might be a little relevant to just start off with a little Star
Sure.
Wars Solo conversation as more people jump in here into the live chat. And of course, if you are watching, please let us know what your thoughts on Solo are, and we will talk about them.
Well, it's funny because we brought up Solo before the live stream talking about it because the marketing for Mandalorian and Grogu reminds me of Solo and how, it was coming out that year and there were advertisements, on the Super Bowl and everything, and people were like, "There's a Star Wars movie coming out this year." It was like really a surprise to a lot of casual fans. So it's reminiscent of that time, and I feel like with the Mandalorian marketing kind of being a little bit lax, as far as getting the word out. But getting back to the movie, I felt like the movie was a real pleasant surprise for me. I hadn't really not that many expectations. I thought it was kind of strange to see someone playing Solo that wasn't Harrison Ford, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it's a really fun movie. It's very rewatchable. I have some issues with certain things here and there, but we talked about this before, and I know you're a big fan of it. I said it was a really enjoyable movie. It's not, I guess, my favorite of the new films. The sequel trilogy, and then that Rogue One and Solo, but I enjoy it. It's fun to watch. There's some really great sequences in it. And I think Alden, I always mess his name up. Alden did a great job as Solo. I thought, it was a lot of fun.
I love Solo. Like I will always have a really soft spot in my heart for that film. I wish it had been marketed better, but and there was a lot of problems with that. But you know what has always bothered me was that people, you know, didn't really buy Alden as Han, I think in some ways because of he's a much more like boyish look to him than Harrison Ford, who I think was born just like as just a chiseled, grizzly man. Like Harrison Ford is just a freaking man. You know what I mean? Like, and Alden, he just looks a lot younger. He has that more, boyish charm about him. But I actually, once I started watching the movie and became immersed in it, I really appreciate, you know, Alden's role. I always did when I watched, but now I almost appreciate it more. And I think that it almost makes sense to me that, Alden, it's almost a good parallel of what Han Solo becomes in A New Hope.
Mhm.
He's the boyish charm of Alden, this boyish look that he has represents some of the naivety that Han has in the galaxy at this time, while also kind of that desire to do good, and it almost gets stamped out of him due to the events of Solo and what he's going to experience. We know later on, and then we get years later this the Han that is a little bit bitter and I guess callous to some in some regards, but still really wants to be the good guy and has morphed himself into the version of Han Solo that we see in A New Hope. And then throughout A New Hope, I mean, we just see the layers of that facade stripped away a little bit to where we can peer inside. I don't know. I think it really helps me appreciate even more, my like favorite character in Star Wars growing up, which was the Han Solo. And I did see something, this isn't Solo movie related, but the best, thing I've ever seen about Star Wars is like you grew up wanting to be Luke until you got older and realized that you really just wanted to be Han Solo. Like that was the guy you should have been emulating when you were a kid. But I really do love Solo. I my hot take is that I like Solo more than Rogue One, and that maybe is
That's a hot
insane of me to say. Maybe now that Andor's out, like that changes some things because Rogue One has the extra significance with Andor. I
right.
need to rewatch it all and go through there again and watch both. But I think I love the fact that there are not a lot of Star Wars movies that you think about the 9 films, there's only a couple of Star Wars movies you could put on if you just want to have like a feel good, no sad vibes kind of story.
Right.
And not that Solo doesn't have sad vibes, but it's just such a fun journey from start to finish that you can help but smile at the end when Han gets the Falcon. And it's like you can watch A New Hope. You get you get that. Return of the Jedi. I don't get that Return of the Jedi, like it's a different happiness because I'm also crying because of what's going on with
Yeah,
Luke and his father. It's a different kind of feeling.
a lot
But
of
if you
emotion.
ever just want that very chill, laid back, put the movie on, you've had a long week and you just want to laugh for a little while. Solo just does that for me. And sometimes as a teacher and graduate student, sometimes it's nice to have something where you can not to say turn your brain off because I don't think it's brain rot, but it's nice to be able to just have a good time with Solo. And I just think it doesn't get quite the respect it deserves.
Yeah, it's very underrated, I feel. So, hey, I saw in the comments, make Solo 2 happen. I remember those hashtags. Yeah,
Bring
I
them
was
back.
hoping for it because I think it left some. It feels like a very kind of a movie that really needs a sequel. But and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I feel like it was. I enjoyed it. It was good, but it just felt like very episodic. Like especially how it ends. Um,
Oh man, yeah, because Han gets finally gets the Falcon,
right.
and then
It
you have
kind of
all the
like
Darth Maul stuff with
it
Kira.
just felt like there was going to be a new one next week. You know, like it felt like
Mm.
there needed. You know, we wanted to know more about the story. So we'll see. Who knows?
Although
One is in charge now. We'll see what happens.
so there is a world that's pretty funny though when you watch Solo, where Darth Maul tells Kira, like, come to me on Dathomir so we can talk about Traitor Beckett and his accomplices. And it's like he knows that there's something else going on here. And in
Yeah.
this like world where, if they made another movie, would those two ever interact? And how could you like ever have them interact? Because then it would just not make any sense necessarily for Han to be like, this all powerful force controlling everything, when it's kind of funny. Han would say that in New Hope, but then like in Solo, there's this guy named, Maul, that is a force wielding, sociopath, that is trying to figure out who Han is so he can murder him. Like it's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's funny. So, quick question for you. What would you rather see made as far as fan casting? Solo 2 or The Hunt for Ben Solo?
Hunt for Ben Solo. I mean, that's not even close. I mean, you're getting Adam Driver, that because that's like saga level of importance. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's
I agree. I
I mean,
agree.
that essentially would be episode 9.5, episode 10, if you want to
Yeah,
go that far. I mean, it is of that much level of importance.
yeah,
If you
agree.
ask me after I've had a few bourbons, maybe I might change my mind and say make Solo 2 happen just for the memes. But come on, it's got to be the hunt
Yeah.
for the other Solo.
If you had a few bourbons, you'd probably say Solo 2 could probably be part of The Hunt for Ben Solo. It would be one movie.
Manslayer says, "Come on, Tom, I can push you to the Sarlacc pit because of that." Not wrong.
Manslayer,
Not wrong.
he's got my number.
So, oh, yeah, anything else?
No, that's it. I could probably move
Okay.
on to
Right.
main
So
topic.
so let's go ahead and get into the topic today, which is, should Rey be in Starfighter? That's our main discussion today. A lot of this was spurred on by the article from IGN saying that, once again, nothing that we haven't necessarily heard before, which is Starfighter is a standalone movie that will feature no legacy characters whatsoever. You will not see any characters you've ever seen before in this movie. Okay.
You sound like Admiral Akbar now.
Maybe I'm channeling like when
It's a
my
trap.
voice is gone, I can easily channel my it's a trap, you know. But my question immediately, outside of just should Ray be in Starfighter, is is this all a smokescreen? Like, is this all a smokescreen from them with Starfighter, that like everything, like not even like let's just say that Ray isn't in it, but like is there a way they weave other characters we might know about? Is it truly going to be a standalone? Is it completely true, or is this like really going to be a smokescreen to lead to Ray or others showing up? I'm very curious what you think about this, because I know you're very much in the pro, Ray is going to be in Starfighter camp. You have been since the beginning. You've felt even more emboldened lately with that, but I'm wondering if this has deterred you a little bit, even though we've heard it before. But sometimes it's the reframing, reteaching of this again.
It's so interesting because we asked, will before in the past we've asked, will Ray be in Starfighter? Now the question today was, should she be in Starfighter?
Mm,
So I think, and I know I'm flip flopping on this a lot.
yeah,
The reason I feel like if the plot, it's almost like if the plot is what we think it is, that
yeah.
this kid is force sensitive, searching for training, it most certainly has to be Ray that he's going to end up with. However,
Yeah.
we could be totally off with the plot. We don't have that information yet, so who knows? Um,
It
I kind
just
of like the
feels like it has to be a force sensitive, like everything, like all the leaks are saying that, um, it's very interesting. What do you think? Keep
it,
going.
I'll keep going. Yeah, I go back and forth. I feel like we don't have enough information yet to really determine. But should she be in it? I think, like I said, if they go that angle, the kid is force sensitive. It has to be Ray. And I said this before, just like Grogu had to be matched up with Luke. He was the person in that era that was the pinnacle of force user, Jedi. So in this case, Ray would have to be part of it, but they don't have to get to that point. They could end the movie with them going, I know this Jedi Master, that I could lead you to, and kind of like the end of Force Awakens. Maybe she'll be in it for like that quick, second, or maybe not. So I don't know. I go back and forth after reading that. And Manslayer had a good point saying she's not really a legacy character, I guess. Maybe she is at this point, but um, so I go back and forth. But I will say this: if she's not in it and it's a really good movie, I'll be perfectly fine. I think it would be cool to see her, but I'll be perfectly fine if they can pull off a really good movie. They don't need all of the fan service, as they say. Then I'll be happy. I'll be
Okay.
satisfied. So, but what they shouldn't do is shoehorn her in if she doesn't belong in this story. So that's kind of where I am at this point.
Well, I'm with you. If it is a force sensitive story and a story about like we got to protect this child, and if we don't protect this child, like, and his ability to use the force, like that is the whole point of the story. Ray has to be that person, kind of like you're saying. She is, like you mentioned, the pinnacle of force user, pinnacle of Jedi. And it would be weird if it's like this journey to go find her. And then we get there at the end and he walks to the doors of some temple and she's just not there. We're like, oh, she's on the other side. Like, what if and it's like hinted at, but not just actually done? That would make no sense to me. Like, I wouldn't appreciate that. Like, I think we need to see Ray in that sense. It shouldn't have to be, like you said, for very long, but we at least need to see her. But I have continued to maintain that I think they should find a way to make this movie without any characters we have seen before. Maybe they can mention it. Maybe they can briefly bring certain characters up or certain battles, certain locations. But I think just a complete like blank slate, fresh air might
I'm
just
good
be
with
the
that.
most welcome thing.
Yeah, and I think RJ 2088 had a good point too, that there may at this point I think the timeline of Starfight is 5 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker, so I'm not sure. But if Rey has already successfully started her academy, or however we're looking at it, she has students. It'd be cool if the kid maybe is matched up with one of them and saying, I'm going to take you to my master. Uh,
Mm,
and maybe we'll know, but maybe not make it as obvious, so they don't have to, like I said, shoehorn her in there. However, Daisy Ridley has shown her enthusiasm for returning to Star Wars, so yeah, in a way, they're going to figure it out.
yes.
I have confidence in Sean Levy. I think he's going to figure it out. What is going to happen? The movie wrapped principal photography, but they could always add pickups and change
Well,
things.
there's reshoots. Movies do reshoots. They do
They have plenty of
all of
time.
these things all the time. It's very routine. It's very common.
Yeah.
And I know that you were big on the hill of they changed the whole third act in the process of filming, and was that to work Ray in there. And I don't know if I've bought into that, but I think the thing I would be most comfortable with if it was Ray is kind of what RG is saying here, where It's very much at the very end, like Luke in The Force Awakens, where we just see
Yeah.
him like passing the torch off, and she welcomes him into the temple or into wherever it is that she is, training. There is but we also know there's lightsaber duels in this, and you don't have to be a Force, user to wield a lightsaber. We know this, but like it would also be really weird if Ryan Gosling is the one wielding the lightsaber, but Ryan Gosling is not a Force sensitive. Like there is a level with Star Wars fans of, I think people are maybe a little tired of some characters just happenstancing, like they just happen
Right.
to find a lightsaber and then they just start wielding it and swinging around, if they're not Force sensitive. Like there is that like intuitive nature to lightsaber techniques that we're very much aware of, and there's just a lot of the training we see in the Clone Wars. Like there are people upset that like Rey is using the lightsaber, which I thought, with her staff and all of that, like I didn't have a problem with any of
Yeah.
that because she's also one of the most powerful Force users, in existence. So if Ryan Gosling is suddenly wielding a lightsaber, he doesn't use the Force and he's swinging it around, and he found it yesterday, and it's a movie, so I'm not gonna like go crazy over that, but there is part of, I think, what a lot of people want is to see, you know, Jedi, using their training, using the Force in the middle of these duels, and having Rey come in at the ends to save the day. Maybe they're almost there to the temple, and they try to get word out to her all is lost, and she shows up at the very end, and we see that yellow saber ignite, and the hero, the ultimate hero, can save the day at the end and introduce themselves. I think that might be another way that it works out really well. But what I am worried about is them just trying to shoehorn her in here for the
Mhm.
sake of saying, like, we have Daisy Ridley in this movie, and it's hard to keep that a secret for this long. So we'll see if they're able to do it if she is in fact, in the movie.
Yeah, and I think and I guess what'll help them keep that secret if she isn't is because they if things proceed as planned, she's coming back. She's going to be so if they start production on another movie and she's in it, in the next film that they start, then they could probably, I guess, kind of put a damper on those
Right.
rumors as
Absolutely.
far as her, and then just insert it into, um, into Starfighter. But yeah, look, it could be really epic. I don't want to say that, but I'm going to be flip flopping for a good year on
We'll
this.
be we'll be flip-flopping all around. It's a tough question to ask because I think Star Wars fans were eager for that breath of fresh air, like a fresh take on something, ripping
Right.
turning a completely new chapter of Star Wars. And Starfighter, in many ways, I think represents that for a lot of people. But at the same time, given the timeline that we're in and how, the premise of what we believe the story is going to be for this movie, it would also be weird if she doesn't show up in some capacity. So it's going to be really fun
Yeah.
to watch the marketing for this movie. What happens like in the trailer? Does Ryan Gosling, ignite a lightsaber in the trailer or use the Force to
It's going to be,
summon a
I
lightsaber?
can't
Just
wait for that trailer.
it's
And we're
gonna.
probably going to get it. Maybe we'll get it by the end of the year.
Oh, we'll definitely get it by the end of the year. I think we'll get it sooner, way sooner than that, because I mean it comes out in May, and this is gonna be like the movie they're like, everyone needs to go see it. Like I think we're gonna have a teaser for it over like easily over the summer.
Oh, really?
Like a little, like nothing crazy, but maybe like just a short teaser sometime in like late summer, because they were dropping trailers behind paywalls at like D23 and stuff, of Mando and Grogu in August, and this movie is way bigger than that. Like this movie is, if
Yeah.
this movie fails, this is a whole reckoning for Lucasfilm if this movie
Mm.
can't get off the ground either. Like this is bad. But I think this movie, they finished on time. Principal photography was done, weeks ago. They're well into post production now. They're working diligently on this. Like, there's no reason why, even if it doesn't have to be like anything crazy, you can have 20 seconds one quick shot from it. You put Star Wars and then it goes Starfighter, May 2027. It's just a quick one-liner from Ryan Gosling, a quick shot of him and the kid. Like, you don't really have to do anything, just letting people know that like this exists. Like, I think that's
Right.
all you really need. And I would be shocked if we don't get something. Just, I know movies are way different now than they ever have been, in terms of trending, but I think, a year out makes sense, like around like, and so, we're getting Doomsday trailers right now, and
Yeah.
obviously that's a much bigger, thing, but there is a level of Star Wars needs to have a great marketing campaign for Starfighter. So, I imagine that either, late summer or early football season, September, Monday Night Football, something around there, they'll drop some little teaser and then a full trailer, probably like a bigger trailer, probably around Doomsday time with when that comes out. So
Probably.
it has to be.
Yeah. Most likely. Awesome.
But so we're moving on. But like Daisy Ridley, I'm curious what you think about some of the comments that she's been making lately, because there is so much of me that wants to see Daisy again in Star Wars and see Rey at the peak of her powers and just everything that would be.
Yeah.
But I'm just really wondering what's going on with her movie. She says that, the change in Lucasfilm leadership is nothing, it's not changing what's going on with her movie. She's really excited that there have been changes that have taken place, and she's really eager to share what those are. And people are going to be really excited about it when they hear them. And on the surface, I want to say, oh my gosh, like, what could it be? Like, is it this? Is it that? What could these changes be that would get me so excited? On the other hand, I'm like, of course she's gonna say that, like, what is she
Yeah.
not? What is she gonna say, that people shouldn't be happy and eager for a Rey movie? But where I come back to, Tom, and I want your thoughts on this, where I come back to is, she could easily just say, yeah, the change, it's taking place at Lucasfilm, we're moving forward, and hopefully we'll have, an announcement soon. Like, which has kind of been what she said largely for the last year and a half, really ever since Celebration, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It just feels like she's being asked about it a lot more. I know she's been out on the streets more promoting different projects,
Yeah.
but it just feels like we keep seeing her name come up, and the way she talks about Starfighter, or not Starfighter, her next, the Star Wars movie she's in, like the Rey movie, seems like she's talking about it a little differently. Like, there are changes, and we're excited to announce what those changes are going to be. And people are going to be really excited to hear about the direction that this is going to be going. And I'm just wondering, is there something more to that? Like, we will get a confirmed announcement regarding Rey sometime this year.
I really hope so. I really hope so. I think that if I feel like the next film is going to go into production this year. So what are we going to find out? Is it what we suspect, that they're rolling her story into the Kinberg trilogy? Are they going to just do a standalone Rey movie? Which I feel like as time goes by, that's becoming less and less, I guess, a reality. But we'll see. It's interesting because I felt like the Rey movie may be in jeopardy if this is last year. I was thinking if Kathleen Kennedy leaves Lucasfilm, that might be in jeopardy. However, Kathleen Kennedy she's leaving, but she's still going to be producing a lot of these projects that she greenlit. And they're probably going to be reaching out to her a lot on certain things coming up. So I feel like, and she was probably maybe trying to, who knows? She's probably has a lot that she knows that she can't tell yet.
Of course.
So
you'd hope so.
I feel like she's
trying
to
hope
the fan interest up, and let them know that movie's, like the fandom has really gone through a lot of unkept promises, as far as films being released and projects being,
really.
If you haven't
really.
But yeah, so maybe it's her way of just trying to keep, I guess, people interested in that. It's weird. It's like all things right now are leading to this going to the Kinberg trilogy, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, we could be totally wrong. I just my gut, that's how I feel right now.
Well, I mean, we have the comment from like Manslayer talking about if she's going to be into a Obi-Wan type role in the future, and we're gonna see Obi-Wan necessarily from prequels. We're talking more about like an Obi-Wan in the sense of like Alec Guinness's role as Obi-Wan, as the older mentor figure for whoever is going to take up the mantle next. And I'm open to seeing that, but I'm kind of with Manslayer here. I don't want to see that yet. Like I feel like I've said this multiple times on this show is that she has the keys to the kingdom at the end of the Rise of Skywalker. Just like Luke had the keys to the kingdom at the end of Return of the Jedi. I want to see what the Last Jedi does with the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see what they do and how they respond. We never got to see what Luke did next. We've seen bits and pieces of it, but not really anything of true substance visually. Like it's just little clips here and there from Book of Boba Fett, or a flashback of it all crumbling in the sequels, or little snippets in books and comics. But that's not in front of our faces seeing Luke Skywalker be Luke Skywalker. And so I would be frustrated if we do that again with Rey, where it's like, here we go, we have the Jedi and they're going to be rebuilt. She has the text, she has the Falcon, which isn't, Jedi related, but it's like, part of the Star Wars, saga thing. She's got both
All the
the
parting gifts.
Skywalker, she's buried both the Skywalker sabers, all of those things. And now we're going to fast forward to she's an older, which I guess is like the legacy. This is what she built, and we're now going to get into it. But you kind of want to see, it's like, when you go to watch LeBron right now, like, okay, it's still cool because it's LeBron James and he's, one of the most iconic, greatest players of all time. And what he's doing at the age of 41 is absolutely insane. But would you rather watch LeBron right now, or would you rather rewind, 12 years and watch 28-year-old LeBron, 29-year-old LeBron at the peak of his powers athletically, and, watch that experience? You're going to take that experience. Like, you want to see, the GOATs in their prime. And like it or not, Rey's one of the GOATs, and I want to see her in her prime.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's funny because some people from my generation of fandom also felt that way in the sequels. That now we were talking about when we rewatched The Force Awakens, I felt like it held up so well. And one thing I didn't mention is they introduced some great characters between, Rey, Poe, Finn. But I think some people from my generation of fandom wanted to see, they wanted the legacy characters to kind of like take center stage, and that was really not the intention of the filmmakers at that point, which maybe it shouldn't have been. But like, we feel like we missed, I wish there was a 7, 8, and 9 maybe released in the 90s, or when Luke and everyone was in their prime as far as like the adventures that they had. So I'm still holding hope out that they're gonna do something, maybe an animation or something with that period of time, because I want to see that. But I feel the same way about Rey now. I want to see her in her prime. I think the time for her to be the Obi-Wan Alec Guinness type character is probably far off in the future. Not, I would like to see that, but right now she's still young. She's in, I guess her peak, as a Jedi. So I want to see that. I want to see what kind of things happen. I want to revisit those characters. Hopefully we'll get to see Finn and Poe again. I want to see them in their prime and some of the adventures they have now. I feel like I want more of them. People will argue, well, they didn't like the arcs of their characters in, how they played out in the sequel trilogy. I'm like, I was happy with a lot of it, but I will say I want more. So
what did you happen to see Oscar Isaac's reaction when someone asked him, I think it was like at the Golden Globes, maybe, when someone asked him about the Hump for Ben Solo, and he's like, how dare you ask me that question? Or like, why on earth would you ask me that question?
Who knows? Maybe maybe all the big new, maybe all the changes are going to be the Hunt for Ben Solo, and it's going to be a big, reunion of all these characters. We'll see. I don't
That
know.
would be
I'm being kind of fanboy here, but
it's a
we'll
fever
see.
dream. It's a fever dream right there. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's a fear.
But I we'll see about Ray. We'll see. It's the ever looming question in Star Wars now for 3 years is what's next with Ray. But let's talk about Taika Waititi for a minute. We mentioned before the show we were talking, and I said, it's funny how like Star Wars, there's these certain clips and sound bites and quotes. They just continue to make waves like after a long time. Like Taika said months ago, maybe a year ago, I don't remember, that his movie that he's writing was going to get back to like the more fun aspects of the original trilogy. It's going to be lighthearted, funny, uh,
Protecting the lore.
protecting the lore, right? And once again, he got asked very recently about this, and he mentioned much of the same exact thing, and it's kind of been making waves on social media. And I saw it, and a lot of people were freaking out, like, "Oh my gosh, this is like great news," and all of this. I'm thinking he said the same thing months ago, like, and we just forget, and then we see it again because not everyone is as in the weeds as we are, and so it gets cycled again. But I guess because he's on video talking about this now, Tom, is this something that should make me believe that this movie is going to happen?
It's interesting. We talked about this earlier too, before the stream. That he has worked with Filoni on The Mandalorian, um, and it's interesting. I want to see it. I think we disagreed at this point. I think it's going to happen. I don't. I think you're kind of skeptical, but it's just funny to me that like it's starting to be like a ChatGPT prompt. Like if I was making a Star Wars movie, what should it be like? And it's like only no legacy characters, only faces, and it's going to embrace the fun and and joy of like the past. So it's kind of like these stock answers, and of course, like they're limited to what they could say. But
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting a lot of that same information. That's why it's kind of a bummer there's no celebration this year. I'm waiting for that big dump of information.
I'll ask Satan himself what that same exact prompt and see. If you're making a great new Star Wars movie, the key is this: go smaller, more personal, more mythic, not another galaxy-ending super weapon. So choose a Jedi. Make it a Jedi who chooses not to fight. Make it post Rise of Skywalker, fresh star, low baggage. The core idea would be the Force is out of balance, not because of Sith, but because everyone thinks power equals violence. A young Force sensitive is discovered who has immense raw power. Okay. The second idea is the first Jedi. Okay. So Dawn of the Jedi. Already got that. 3, a non-force war movie in an early Imperial rule. But the chat says to move forward with a Jedi who chooses not to fight. Okay, so basically, a bunch of crap that we get there, because we kind of saw that before when Luke literally threw the lightsaber, which is why generative AI, people, is not the answer. And if you are someone who is supporting the companies out there that are trying to feed you this slop, you should stop. Like I saw a quote unquote trailer for all AI movie or TV series that's coming out where they just have voice actors for their roles, but every single thing in the movie is just, for the most part, just straight out of AI, generative AI, and like the script, I guess, too, to some degree. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the junk that we're going to be trying to be force fed. Like there's actors now that are AI actors that have like profiles. And I'm thinking to myself, what are we doing? Like, how do we get to this point? Like, this is absolutely stupid.
Hear me out. No, I will say this. I have been tempted and I have clicked on some of the Star Wars AI stories. They get uncanny very fast. However, there are some still frames in those that are amazing because they're trying to tell stories that happen in between, like like the stormtroopers getting to the Lars farm and the New Hope, and what happened right before the Millennium Falcon made it to Bespin, and the writing
I
is not that
I
great.
don't mind. I don't mind
Performances
like
are not that
that's
great, but
just
some of
it's
the
another
still
form of fan fiction. It's another form of
yeah,
fan
it's like
fiction,
fan fiction. Some of the
which is
stills though, like
fine.
it looks they look it's gotten pretty convincing in some
But
spots.
right, that's but
Like
I
I said,
don't care that it's gotten convincing because I just like Star Wars isn't about generating content. Star Wars is about
yeah,
pushing, ideas forward and doing something new and being innovative
right,
and uh telling a story that resonates with real people like AI. I don't care what you're doing, could never write Andor. And like Andor just got, awarded for writing award, from the Writers Guild. And so shout out
awesome.
to got nominated for that. So, shout out to Andor again. So like
The goat.
it is another form of fan fiction
Yeah,
that, people can make what they want. And we're now living in a day and age where Disney, who owns Star Wars, is moving into a point where the answer to all our problems is is adapting and adopting AI into our platforms. So, Loserville 96, can ask Darth Vader to do something crazy and it'll make a little video for him, and that's the future of Star Wars in some regards, if Bob Iger and Disney had it their way. And I just think that we're on a tangent now, but who gives a flip? But I just think it's a dangerous thing that we have opened Pandora's box, and this is our version of Jurassic Park. Oh, this was a question right here. What would you do if you found out that Andor was written by AI? Asking out of curiosity of how to process that. If it's if
there's
they if
there's no AI that exists or probably ever will that could write Andor.
and
But if
here's
I
the thing,
found out it was, I would be like, I would totally
devastated.
quit my job as a IT professional.
I'd be devastated. First of all, I'd be devastated.
But yeah, I
Would-
mean, look,
I
AI
would
AI
demand
is
they
good
take it
at what
off
it's
of
good
Disney
at,
Plus.
but it can't create. It can't, like, it can learn, it could adapt, it could do so many things, but it can't create really. Um, it can't create something new. It has to
Mhm.
be something that's learned. And it does it. I mean, what it does very well. Like I've heard AI music, and I've been impressed at some. Like I said, some of these short films, you guys may have seen them online. Yeah, I mean, it looks like Mark Hamill, like
Mm.
in the original trilogy. It looks like I saw one with Billy D. Williams, and I mean, of course, then like I said, it gets uncanny quickly because
Right.
the eye line is off and the performance is weird. The dialogue is very choppy, but if you take still frames from that, it's pretty cool as far as fan fiction. However, it can't create anything new that doesn't already exist.
I just think like if I found out that Andor was adopted or written by AI, I'd be done. Like that would be like a that would turn me to the dark side. Like that would be what turns me to the dark side, and I would make it my
Eyes
sole
glow
yeah,
yellow.
I would make it my sole mission in life. I'd be one of those like one of the assholes online that's just going after like every day going after Disney and Lucas trying to get them to sell Star Wars to someone else. Like I would just absolutely go insane if that happened. Which like there's no
High
way. There's no
Padawan.
way. But I would literally start I would become Lutheran Rail and start my own rebellion. I'd have splinter cells everywhere. I'd be sacrificing everything for the cause. I'd write my own manifesto like Nimic. I'd have my own like secret operation, like you're seeing me teaching at school, but in the
We just
back
saw Guerrera with the what was the substance? The
the Redonium.
yes.
It's not for the sane. Oh no, I'd be
I love that line. Like what was it? Rebellion is not for the sane or something
yeah.
like.
He
Oh
got
my,
nominated for that.
I know. I mean, great on him. I mean, unfortunately, there were a lot of people overlooked too
Mm.
in
He
the acting
delivered.
awards. That was yeah. Don't get me started.
Well,
But
we'll
yeah,
see if We'll see if we ever see Taika's movie see the light of day. All that to
Yeah, we'll
say.
see. I mean, he's to me hit or miss with a lot of things. I love Jojo Rabbit. I love uh,
Ragnarok. And then
Ragnarok.
you said that by any time. Yeah, you said that before.
Yeah, I love Ragnarok. Such a fun movie. Love and Thunder, not really so
The
much.
movie sucks.
Yeah, that was rough. But I'm so disappointed too because Ragnarok is so good.
Yeah,
Mm,
I love
But
Ragnarok.
yeah, he's like hit or miss for me. I think he's really a great filmmaker, but it's just like I said, some things to me don't land like others do. But Jojo Rabbit, if you've never seen that, that's an excellent movie.
Hmm. I I have not seen that one. I gotta go. I'll go
I'm
check it out. I haven't. This is actually really sad. I haven't like gone to the movies in so long. I haven't watched a new movie in so long. I've been so busy, and it's like I think it's draining my
Talk
soul.
about
Actually,
movies and things that hold up after. I saw that they re-released The Lord of the Rings in.
no, yeah,
I saw
greatest.
Fellowship of the Ring. I went by myself. My kids wouldn't come. They said it's too long, which I get.
What?
But
What?
I
No,
sat there and
no.
I'm like, this movie is a masterpiece. You know, that
Oh, those. No, how do you? Oh.
outside of Star Wars, that's my favorite franchise.
Did I tell you like Miguel's hot take that I 100% like am on board with now? Like I'm locked in with him on this. It's that the theatrical cuts are the cuts, like no extended edition. Like they are
I am
better
with
than extended
you.
edition.
I'm with you on that. I am.
We're with Miguel.
You know, I
He
saw
told me that first because, and then I went and did a whole like rewatch. I did like I don't know if I told Miguel this. I watched all the theatrical cuts, like bang bang bang, and then I waited a while, like a couple months, and I watched all the extended bang bang bang, and I was like, I think I'm with Miguel.
there was one thing that won me over to the theatrical cuts. Well, also because they're shorter. I mean, I love them. I love those movies so much. It's just it's tough with the length to sit and watch. But
Yeah.
that's why I like seeing it in the theater because I'm like a captive audience. But however, in Return of the King, and we'll take our side quest to the Lord of the Rings podcast for a sec. But in Return of the King, there's a few story beats that work for me much better in the theatrical cut.
Mm.
We could talk about that at some point. What those are? Maybe you guys could guess, but there's like a reveal that is much better in the theatrical cut for me, with something that happens in the film. So
Okay.
let's
I
figure it
like
out.
that.
We'll,
I like
we'll
that.
talk about it maybe next time.
Well, so Tom, you were not. Oh my gosh! Like I don't. Were you? Oh my gosh! Was this? When did this happen? Oh, this was a timeline show that Luke and I did recently. That I was trying to think because I was like, Tom was not there when this happened, but it was but Luke was there, and I'm like, why would Tom have been on? Anyway, all that to say, there when I was on the Reckless Rebellion podcast as a guest a couple weeks ago, and was on their show, they have a tradition that they do at the end of their that they do at the end of their shows, their podcasts. And I thought that for the live show, it'd be a great way to adopt their tradition as well into ours. And we will have, we have 10 minutes left. 10 minutes. We don't have to take the whole 10, but it is our time to talk about anything other than Star Wars, like recommendations. Are you watching anything right now, reading anything, doing anything? What would you, any recommendations be about movies, film? This could be about TV. This can be life, books, whatever, comic, whatever it is, Tom. Like, what, do you have any recommendations that you want to throw out to the general audience today?
Oh man, I wish I had time to think about this. Yeah, I just went off of my Lord of the Rings rant. Not really a rant, kind of, but I'm trying to think if there's anything recently that I've checked out. Why am I drawing a blank? Well, I will say this. I really enjoyed the third Knives Out film. I think it's a really great story. It's I think a travesty that Josh O'Connor didn't get an Oscar nomination for his performance because he was phenomenal, and Daniel Craig's always great. But I thought it was a great film. I really highly recommend it if you guys like the series. The nice thing about the Knives Out films is you don't have to watch them in any order. There's 3 of them, and they're totally Daniel Craig is the character that recurs in all of them, but you don't have to see them. Like
Right.
if you say, "Well, I didn't see the first 2," you don't. Doesn't matter. You could see the third one. The first and third, in my opinion, are the best. Um, but I will just say that's recently out on Netflix. So if you guys want to check it out.
Okay.
Oh,
I've been telling you for a while, like I need to go watch. I'm so behind on things that I really want to watch. I will say, I plugged this on like the timeline show that Luke and I had posted and that we went into, but I do want to plug Star Trek. I love Star Trek, and just find a way to get into Star Trek. Actually, maybe it was. Oh, I remember now. We did do this last week on the live show. You left early. I forgot you left a little early, and then Luke did it. Oh my gosh, I'm like blanking, and now it finally came to me. I was like, why? The only situation. Okay, that's what it was. I talked about Star Trek last week because I remember Manslayer mentioned something, and then I sent him like a little list of some stuff he should check out. Oh my gosh, it's all coming back to me now. Okay, now let's say I will plug Star Trek again. You'll probably hear that from me quite often. Unfortunately, I'm not diving into a lot of new things right now. I'm just trying to stay afloat. So what I would offer this week as a recommendation, Tom, for the world today is to step back out of whatever bubble that you exist in and try to critically think for yourself, but also empathize with the people around you. Um, it's been very frustrating, anger filled week uh, for a lot of people in our country. And I'm sure a lot of people around the world are watching what's happening in the United States and wondering like what the hell is going on over there. And it is really sad to see how certain things are being construed and certain things are being said. And so I just really want, my recommendation would be just like really find a way to empathize with people, find a way to connect with people that are different from you, find a way to connect with your fellow neighbor, all of those things, because it is critical now, like maybe more than ever before in human history, that we learn how to love one another in a way that we haven't before. So that would be like my number one thing, kind of a little deep, uh, and maybe a little bit too much. And then I'll leave you on a lighthearted note. Go to Goodwill. See if you can find some fun Star Wars items at Goodwill. You always find a little treat over there at Goodwill. So if you got one near you, go look and see, because I guarantee you there's got to be some little Star Wars trinket that you'll like never know that you might find. So I got one right there. Oh, and then last thing is we were playing classic Battlefront 2 the other night with some of my friends, and and on the classic collection I had downloaded for the PS4, and we were playing the Galactic Conquest mode, and we were about to go to Utapau, and we were, the rebellion, and I ran back in here and grabbed my new like Utapawan warrior that I have found at this like vintage store, and I put him on the uh like a table tray right in front of us as we were playing, and I was like and I said, all right, while the screen is loading, I said, if you have warriors, tell them now is the time. And I put him right there. I was like, and then we were like, yes. Anyway,
awesome.
all that good stuff. Good stuff. Well, everyone, thanks for hopping into the live show. Tom, any final words for us before we get out of here?
No, I just may the force be with you guys. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you, Tyler, for all the hard work you put in. So just
I
happy to be
appreciate it.
here.
You can find us always at Star Wars Newsnet, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. I need to upload I forgot to upload last week's live to the podcast forum, so I'm probably gonna do that here soon. Upload this one to, probably like over the weekends. We can get boom boom out there, so everyone has that to listen to audio wise. Join us every Thursday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time for Star Wars Newsnet live. My schedule is stupid crazy right now,
Wait,
so
you're saying wait.
Wait for what?
Oh.
For what? I'm waiting. But Star Wars Night Live, timeline show, and everything. So Manslayer, come on now. You know better. We didn't mention it
Didn't we talk
because
about that?
we have known this. We have known this for months. Like it was released in the book. And there's a book about it, and
Right,
we
the
misled
acolyte,
it. We talked about it. Like
Ordos
we
or
we
something.
know that like he was supposed to
Pretty
be
cool.
like that was the story where it was gonna go. It'd be the first night of Ren, and now you're just trying to open up wounds that I thought were healed that are now just torn open again because I have to relive the fact that we're never going to get that story and we're never going to get more Darth Plagueis because we can't have nice things in life. Now we're depressed as we exit the live show. Now we're depressed. But anyway, make sure you check all that out. You see me on TikTok at Star Wars Book Dude, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Manslayer, as always, for holding us accountable, though. We love to be held accountable. All right, we'll see you next week for a fun chat for Light and Life, everyone. And, remember that we are all wondering whether Rey should be in Starfighter or not.